There is a passage in the book of Karen White, chapter 19, verse 88, that says, "I've got my pride. I will not cry, but it's making me weak. I'm not your superwoman." I've always been fiercely independent, but from the time I was a little girl until as recently as a few weeks ago, whenever I would talk about love, my career, or life, my West Indian mom would say some version of, "Kishshana, I just want a man to take care of you." I always wondered why my mom wanted someone to take care of me. Couldn't I take care of myself? Growing up, Dawn, my mom, insisted I learn a few critical skills. It's a long list, but here's a snapshot. Tell me if you can relate. They included learning to run a household, cooking and cleaning, taking care of myself and my siblings, and carrying myself like a lady. Doing it all with a smile, grace, and good manners reflective of my good home training. But my independent, assertive spirit frequently got in the way of that. So you might imagine how layered my experience is and how conflict about who I am versus who I should be started to bubble deep, deep in my spirit from years of gendered reinforcement and, in general, a sense of pity for those who weren't able to, seal the deal. Now, my mom is way too modest to say any of this, and in fact is the #1 fan of the Kishshanaverse. But like other women of her generation, this is what they know. You excel at being a homemaker. Excel in your education if you were afforded one. Excel in your career or job, depending on your socioeconomic status. Excel in your social groups, faith, sorority, society, all of it. You pluck your eyebrows, powder your nose, no hair out of place, and you do it in a way that will make you desirable and non-threatening to men, even though you secretly rule the roost. My mom would work all day, come home and make these amazing meals for my stepdad, brother, and me. She was really big on making sure that we ate well, sometimes a little bit too much. Then she'd move about our apartment doing this and that, giving us the look to do this and that, and then would slip into the most elegant nightgowns every single day. I know. It never really dawned on me to ask her how she did it all, how she managed to keep our house immaculate, get us dressed for school and church, make it to her 9 to 5 on time, be at all our activities, and somehow manage to find time for my stepdad. I just remember that she wore it all with a certain level of pride and a whole heap of weariness. It wasn't until I became an adult that I realized the one person she wasn't prioritizing was herself. It should come as no surprise that as an adult, I was obsessed with being this sort of perfect woman, a superwoman, if you will. But what does it actually mean to be a superwoman, both in love relationships and in leadership? The American Psychological Association defines superwoman syndrome as a set of characteristics found in a woman who performs, or attempts to perform, all the duties typically associated with several different full-time roles, such as wage earner, mother, homemaker, and wife. I was also waiting for this definition to say, and dishwasher, Uber driver, group chat therapist, and everything else under the sun, because we do it all. And if you want to be the absolute best, you might find yourself doing the absolute most, as I do or did. So let's chat for a minute about the pride that comes with being a superwoman. There's an S on my chest that comes with being the woman who performs with excellence at work, grabs the corner office, manages her family and social life, stays booked and busy, keeps herself well coiffed, and does it all with what looks like ease, grace, and not a bit of sweat. Friends, I got good. No, great at that. What I didn't know was that I was setting myself up for the ultimate failure. My desire to be perfect at home and at work meant I pushed myself at a grueling, almost punishing pace. Have you ever seen those movies with the young boys flexing their imaginary muscles in the mirror? Nothing there but skin and bones. But every day they do hundreds of push-ups and then they flex like they are a real contender for Mr. Olympia. That's how the Superwoman complex fools you. Here you are, minding the business of 1,435 repeating priorities, except you. And you think you're winning the day. But you are, like our puny, no muscle having friend, fake flexing to win the contest of what? Best executive? Best wife? Best daughter? Best friend? Best bake the cookies from scratch on no sleep? Every time you twist yourself into a pretzel trying to be all things to all people, you are giving yourself the middle finger. Don't believe me? Watch this. I'm a solo mama, and when my daughter was in 5th grade, there was a day trip to DC she wanted to attend. I had a work trip planned, and I wouldn't make it back in time to be a chaperone. Rather than tell her no, I hadn't missed a school trip since the 1st grade, and I couldn't take the look on that baby's face. Y'all see me sliding my cape out. I left the work dinner early and took a red eye back from the West Coast to New York City because there was no direct red eye to DC that night. To make it happen, I'd left a change of clothing at my parents' before my trip so that when I landed, I could run to my parents' house to shower and change. With a 90-minute window between flights, I just knew I could make it. My dad drove me back to the airport like a New York City dollar van driver, and I raced through the terminal to make the shuttle to get to DC. Once in DC, I hopped in an Uber to meet the bus for the trip. I want you all to know that at no time did it occur to me not to do this. And when I shared my plan with the trip organizers, they exclaimed, "Come through, Superwoman." You see how this works? I could barely stand on my feet that day. I was so tired. I am pretty sure I didn't pay attention to one thing that happened. But my kid was happy and I showed up, right? It shouldn't surprise you that that wasn't the first time I'd done something like that. You see, I tightened my cape around my neck when I got divorced and found myself single for the first time in my adult life on the other side of 30 with a toddler. I had to. I'd done everything right, at least by my mom's standards. I went to college and grad school, got a great job, found a great guy who'd take care of me. We got married, had a kid, built a house, lived down the street from the family. We did great Christmases and Easters fully decorated and in full accordance with the community standards of our local suburban HOA. And yet, becoming really good at performing in this way didn't equal my happily ever after, nor give a clue to who I really was and what I was called to do in this world. That would come years later. What was bubbling up for me on the inside, and what I imagine bubbles up for lots of us, is this notion that we might have it all. But do we? Do I? Do you? Also, let's not forget the double-edged sword that's at my back. I am a Black woman of Caribbean descent, conscious of the glaring light of piercing expectation that women, by and large, are expected to be a certain way. Women like me. We are to be soft and pink at home, while we suit up to traverse the cold, sharp, and jagged terrain of our high-powered careers. Always on edge, always powerful, strong, folks like to call us. If you're wearing your cape right now, one thing I bet you're not thinking about is the curse that comes with this cape. One of my girlfriends calls it the curse of competence. What does it mean to be good at all the things? What does it mean when you make it all look so damn easy? We've convinced ourselves that putting ourselves last so that we can get a gold star, ding, from everyone else is a signal boost of our competence and our worthiness. And what's our reward for this? A full, overwhelming plate of exhaustion stacked a mile high like we are at a Golden Corral buffet. And this doesn't just happen in our personal lives. The S on our chest is on full display at work. According to a 2019 KPMG Women's Leadership Report, 49% of women executives believe they have an authentic leadership style, revealing them as adaptable, introspective, a seeker of feedback, and willing to share parts of their life story. However, in order to be successful, 66% of these same women believed they needed to change their leadership style to excel and to move up. And unsurprisingly, 41% of us are risk adverse because we don't want to look like we don't know what we're doing. So let me get this straight. We are paddling hard underwater at work to be who we think we need to be while acting against our own interests. Hello, being our whole selves. But also hesitating to just go for it, even though we show up day in and day out doing the most. This is mind-boggling, especially since our good sis Beyonce has already told us that we run the world. Clearly, it is beyond time to reclaim our place and stand firm in who we are and what we're capable of, even if we run the risk of being called aggressive, angry, or my personal favorite, ballsy. How do I know? Because dealing with patriarchy and microaggressions also come along with this cape. But that's another topic for another day. This superwoman complex can also rear its takeover energy in our love relationships. I'm single, and dating when you're grown is an experience. And for those of you smug marrieds, 2 seconds from saying, ooh, I'm glad I'm not in these streets, lean in, because you're not immune. We struggle with not losing ourselves while trying to hold it all together. Remember that early home training? Like riding a bike, it comes back to you when you're looking to be or are partnered. You find yourself doing things for your partner you don't do for yourself, settling and calling it compromising, shrinking the brightest parts of you so that your partner has a good experience. In dating, it shows up in eye-rolling ways. Muting yourself so that you don't seem too loud, too opinionated, too successful, too independent, all while avoiding being too needy, asking too many questions, pushing too hard. I could go on and on, y'all, but I am exhausted already. Aren't you? And online dating? As a superwoman, that can seem like a test of will coupled with a never-ending audition for a straight-to-DVD movie. And yet, we show up fresh-faced and sparkly-eyed, ready to show that we are the best one for this role. If you've experienced a swipe left trance or uttered the phrases, I don't know who I am anymore, or I've lost myself, then you're most likely swaddled in your own full-body custom superwoman cape. Oh, but my friends, there's a dark side to this superwoman complex that we don't talk about enough. Our health, our inability to show vulnerability contributes to the outsized pressure we place on ourselves, which in turn creates stress in our body that becomes harder and harder to rebound from. Like a vice grip, it squeezes us, cutting us off from our bodies, and like a TV remote, it mutes us and our ability to hear when our body is not winning. I have learned the hard way that the body keeps the score. Migraine headaches, debilitating back pain, weight gain despite your keto, Whole30, veganish, no meat Monday, smoothie making best efforts, sleeplessness or too much sleep, foggy brain, and irritability. Ugh. So, are you finally ready to take this thing off? First, start small. Try taking your cape off for a few hours a day. Spend some time with you. Decide if you like you. Love you so that you can attract love to you. Next is what I call my aha, duh moment. Say no. No, you won't be able to make it. No, you won't be able to do it. No, you aren't available. No, you won't accept that. Boundaries are not for others. They are for you, because sometimes we need to put ourselves on time out. You won't make space to ask for the help you need if you don't create boundaries where other people's needs end and yours begin. Last, take inventory of your squad. One of the hardest things I did in the last few years was a friend assessment. Who is really for me and who am I for? One of my besties calls it her polka dot. Everyone doesn't belong in your polka dot, and some folks who are in there are helping you keep your cape on, friends. It's time to take stock of who is encouraging you to be the unsatisfied, secretly unfulfilled, tired, ill, here I come to save the day version of yourself. Pro tip, The ones who aren't for you won't even notice when they're outside your polka dot until the next time they need you. I'll be honest and say there's not a day that goes by that I don't look longingly at my cape hanging from a hook on the front door waiting for me to put it on. But as a friend once asked me, if Superwoman is taking care of everyone else, who is taking care of Superwoman? Thank you.